When I went to visit the historic Irvine Ranch in Irvine, California, I thought I was going to visit a quaint little piece of Southern California history. I really wasn't expecting to stumble on a big part of California. Nothing in this story can be described as small.
Hello everybody, we are at the Irvine Library here in downtown Irvine, but it's also part of the Irvine Historic Ranch. So we're going to learn about the Irvine Library, but we're also going to learn about the historic ranch, and I think we're going to learn a little bit about the history of the Valencia orange. So come and discover this part of Southern California with us.
The city of Irvine and Irvine Ranch are both beautiful, but what most people don't realize is that the city of Irvine is basically controlled by one company, the Irvine Company. A company that has been running in California for 150 years. That is basically the entire history of the state of California. On June 14, 1846, California declared itself to be a republic independent of Mexico, and in 1850 it was admitted into the United States of America as a full-fledged state. The symbol of the state of California is the goddess Minerva. Because California was never a territory, there was a lot of paperwork that had to be worked out. In 1851, the U.S. Congress passed an act called the California Land Act to try to sort it all out, but it was really more of a land grab. This was an act to definitively establish ownership of the land in California. The old Californians lost a lot of land, and the new owners came in. One of these new owners was James Irvine I. He came to California in 1848 to join the California Gold Rush. He didn't really become a gold miner, but he was a good businessman, and he, along with some partners in 1854, started what was called the Irvine Company Wholesale Produce and Grocery Merchants. This would be later reduced to just the Irvine Company in 1864 when they bought the land that was to be known as the Irvine Ranch. As a key holding of the Irvine Company, the Irvine Ranch is actually 93,000 acres. Or for you on the metric system, that is 380 square kilometers of land. For those familiar with Southern California, not only is the Irvine Ranch Irvine, it is also Laguna Beach, Anaheim Hills, Tustin, Orange, and Newport Beach. A huge piece of land that extends 9 miles across the Pacific coast and 22 miles inland into California. The first business for the Irvine Company was sheep herding. It was a reasonable business, but in 1866 the Irvine Company, led by James Irvine I, bought the rights to the newly created Valencia orange. The Valencia orange was a hybrid orange developed in California. Super sweet and especially designed for the California sunshine, it would be the Valencia orange that would initially make the Irvine Company lots of money. California is known for its oranges, and so it made the Irvine family lots of money. James Irvine Jr. was the son of James Irvine I. His father died when he was 18 years old, and the will stated that the trustees would run the company until he turned 25. James's uncle George was one of the trustees, and he bought out the other partners' shares and tried to sell the Irvine Company before James Irvine Jr. was 25. But the courts deemed the whole transaction illegal. And so when James Irvine Jr. turned 25 in 1892, he found himself the sole owner of the Irvine Company. James Irvine Jr. saw the potential in not only agriculture, but the development of Southern California, and the company continued to prosper under his leadership.
What I just learned about this place is the family that lived here was the Irvine family, and the library is called the Katie Wheeler Library, but it was the Irvine family that lived here, and they built this place in 1876. Myford Irvine, and his niece was Katie Wheeler, and that's why it's called the Katie Wheeler. They owned it, but in 1965 there was a fire that burnt down this place. So this is not the original home, it's just the facade. Inside is going to be a library, but they kept the original portico and look of the original building from 1876, and there's some pictures here that we can look at to see what it was looked like originally in the 1800s, and then there you can see it was torn down in 1865 because of that fire and demolition finally in 1868, and then in 2008 it reopened up as the library. So let's go check that part out. We'll go see the library. Here, the library hours are mostly Monday through Friday, 10 to 9 to 5 is what it looks like. I just applied for my library card. I like to get different library cards so I can fill up my Libby app. So I got that, and I'm going to go up to the front desk to get that. It's just a regular library with regular bookshelves. Nothing special about the architecture here. Just the outside looks like the original house.
James Irvine Jr. got married. He got married and had 2 sons. The oldest son, James Irvine III, was supposed to inherit everything, but died of tuberculosis. One of the people that lived in the house for a long time was Katie Wheeler. Katie Wheeler was the granddaughter of James Irvine Jr. She was born at the house and stayed there after her mother died during childbirth. Most of the stories we know about the house are because of Katie Wheeler. Being a former board member of the Irvine Company and the longest resident of the Irvine Ranch house, the library is now named after her. One of the amusing stories about the house is when Katie Wheeler wanted a pool. So she asked her grandfather, James Irvine Jr., to build one, but he said no. He said that the water was too valuable for something as frivolous as a pool. But when James Irvine Jr. left on a fishing trip, Katie asked her grandmother, who consented to build the pool. When James Irvine Jr. got home, he was mad, but he did get his revenge, because when Katie and her grandmother went off on a vacation, James Irvine Jr. had the pool filled with fish and had all of his friends over for an impromptu fishing trip. After that, they reconciled by filling up the pool, and today the pool, was the pool, is a grove of Valencia oranges.
So these would have been like superintendent houses then.
Yeah. They've been moved. They wouldn't have been so close together necessarily on those sides, but you know.
And this over here must have been the bunkhouse. Lots of rocks up here. It's closed up here, but lots of people left rocks up here. I assume that's just for sentimental reasons. You can kind of see what the rooms look like by looking inside. They're very small. You'd have little closets right there, and then you'd have just a square room where there would be 3 to 4 guys in bunk beds, basically.
Since James Irvine III died early, the younger son, Myford Plum Irvine, instead inherited the Irvine Company. Myford Plum Irvine ran the Irvine Company in difficult times.
Here's the Kogan house. It wasn't originally here though. It was in Newport Bay, overlooking Newport Bay bluffs, and it was moved here between 1924 and 1925 and was used as the purchasing agent's house for the ranch.
On January 11th, 1959, Myford was found dead in the Irvine Ranch house with 3 bullet wounds. 2 of the bullet wounds were from a shotgun, and 1 was from a pistol. Also, there was evidence that Myford was either dragged or walked by himself bloody across the room before he died. It became a mystery, but the official death was ruled a suicide. But the Irvine family never agreed with that decision. So the mystery remains. Some people say it might have been the mafia, but the company was never the same after that incident.
California citrus there.
No, not California citrus. Greek fruit. This is pomegranates. But like citrus, pomegranates are fully ripened.
I always associate with pomegranates with Spain, and since the orange is the Valencia, Spain, which came from Valencia, Spain, and Granada is how you say pomegranate. So that those two come together very easily.
And this is definitely orange country, so it's not surprising that it's also pomegranate country.
Yep.
In the 1970s, a man named Donald Bren began to buy all the shares of the Irvine Company. And in 1996, Donald Bren managed to buy all the outstanding shares.
We are now here on Irvine Boulevard, right in front of the city limits sign for the city of Irvine, and right across the street from the marketplace, which is the main mall here in Irvine. And this is a good spot to talk about the end of the Irvine Company. So after, it was in 1977 that the Irvine family finally sold out to an investment group led by Donald Brin. And then by 1996, Donald Brin was the sole owner of the Irvine Company. He is worth about $18 billion. He is one of the most richest investors here in Southern California, $18 million. He owns 116 million acres of property and continues to develop the Irvine Company even today. So the legacy of the Irvine Company today is in real estate. So basically it went from sheep herding to oranges to real estate. And so here we are, and the city of Irvine still stands today, and so does the Irvine Company. Hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you did, please give this video a like, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.